He had been there every morning at the same time for 30 years. Cleaning, never talking, never drawing attention. He was like a ghost at the SEAL training center. Until that day when Recruit Johnson passed right behind him and noticed the tattoo peeking out from under his hood. Old, faded, but unmistakable. A mark that only SEAL Team 6 operators could have. That moment Johnson realized nobody knew it, but the legend was still among them. Welcome to Stories of Honor. Before we begin this powerful story of hidden identity, forgotten heroism, and silent service, tell me in the comments which city you're watching from today. And if you believe stories like this need to be remembered, hit that subscribe button and help us keep these stories alive. The SEAL Training Center gym was still quiet at 4:30 a.m. Before footsteps could be heard in the corridors, he was already there. Same routine every morning. Never late, never early, right on time. The personnel records only said Hayes. No last name, age, or background. None of it was recorded. He had been hired as a civilian employee 30 years ago. Nobody had asked why. Nobody had wondered. Hayes appeared to be around 65 years old. Medium height, slightly stooped shoulders, but there was a strange grace when he moved. His steps were silent, as if he wasn't touching the ground. Always the same gray coveralls, same dark blue hooded sweatshirt underneath. The strangest thing was his hood. Even in summer, even on hot days, he always wore it. He never took it off even indoors, as if he was trying to hide his head or something on the back of his neck. His cleaning equipment was always with him. Mop, bucket, cleaning sprays. But when he used them, there was military discipline in his movements. Everything in its place, economical movement. Nothing was random. SEAL candidates didn't notice him. Or if they did, they didn't care. They just saw him as the cleaning guy. He was like a ghost, there but invisible. Hayes's daily routine operated with military precision. 4:30 entry, 5:0 weight room cleaning, 6:0 cardio area, 7:0 locker rooms. Everything on time, everything perfect. SEAL candidates came for training at 5:30. By then, Hayes was usually cleaning the weightlifting area. Recruits would come, use equipment. Hayes would clean it. Never complained, never commented. Even commanders didn't notice him. When Lieutenant Commander Mason gave morning briefings, Hayes sometimes cleaned in the same room, but as if he wasn't there. Invisible man. That guy's always here, Recruit Williams would sometimes say. He's been here for 30 years. Weird guy, Recruit Davis would add. Never talks. Maybe he can't talk, Recruit Taylor would laugh. But Master Chief Peterson, a 25-year experienced SEAL instructor, looked at Hayes differently. They had made eye contact a few times. There was something in Hayes's eyes, something familiar, but he couldn't figure out what it was. Hayes's strangest feature was that he never got tired. Same pace throughout his 8-hour shift. Never took breaks, never sat down, as if he were a machine. He worked even during lunch break. While other employees went to the cafeteria, he continued cleaning in empty halls, alone, silently. Recruit Michael Johnson, 24, came from Ohio. He was in the 18th week of Bud S training and struggling. Physical tests, mental pressure, sleep deprivation. Everything was very hard. When he came for early training that morning, the gym was still quiet. Hayes was cleaning the weightlifting area as usual. Johnson started preparing his equipment. While warming up with 225 pounds on the squat rack, something distracted him. As he lifted the weight bar, Hayes passed right behind him. Johnson's position was perfect. He could clearly see the back of Hayes's neck. From under the hood, a faint tattoo was visible. At first, Johnson only saw a blurry shape, but when he focused, his heart almost stopped. A trident, an eagle, and numbers below. ST6. Johnson was so shocked he almost dropped the bar. SEAL Team 6. Dev GRU, Naval Special Warfare Development Group. The world's most elite, most secret special forces unit. Hayes finished cleaning and moved away. He hadn't noticed Johnson looking at him. Or he had noticed but didn't care. Johnson's mind was confused. Was this possible? Was this old cleaning man a SEAL Team 6 veteran? Johnson watched Hayes more carefully for the rest of that day. He analyzed every movement, every behavior, and he began to notice Hayes's posture. He didn't walk like an ordinary cleaning worker, but with military discipline, shoulders back, head up, rhythmic steps. How he scanned the environment while cleaning. His eyes were constantly moving, as if looking for danger. What they called situational awareness. Strangest of all, he made no sound. Most people make sounds while doing daily tasks. Breathing, footsteps, equipment sounds, but Hayes was silent, like a ghost. Johnson wanted to tell his friend Recruit Thompson something. But what would he say? Would he say, "I think the cleaning guy has a SEAL Team 6 badge"? He would look crazy. Instead, he decided to research Hayes. But where would he start? Personnel records were confidential. His identity was unclear. That night in bed, Johnson thought about the tattoo again. He had clearly seen the ST6 writing. But how is this possible? SEAL Team 6 operators protect their secret identities. Even when they return to civilian life, they don't reveal their identities. Maybe he was wrong. Maybe what he saw was something else. Over the following days, Johnson carefully observed Hayes. He noted every detail, analyzed every behavior. Hayes's way of working was extremely methodical. He allocated specific time for each area, never wasted time. His efficiency level was very high. How he used equipment was also interesting. How he held a mop, how he organized cleaning materials. Everything was at military standards. Most striking was how he observed SEAL candidates. While cleaning, he was actually watching the training. He noticed candidates' techniques, mistakes, strengths. One day, Johnson saw Hayes notice a candidate's wrong squat technique. Hayes stopped, watched the candidate, but didn't intervene. He just made a mental note. Another day, Hayes noticed a candidate's shoulder injury. From the candidate's movement, he understood he was in pain. But again, he didn't intervene. He just observed. Johnson noticed how Hayes read the candidates. Who was under stress, who was strong, who had potential. He knew them all. This level of observation ability would only exist in experienced operators. Thursday morning of the third week, everything changed. Johnson had come early for morning PT. The gym was still empty. Only Hayes was there. While Johnson was stretching, Hayes was cleaning the nearby cable machine. Johnson said good morning to him, but Hayes didn't answer. As usual. But then, something unexpected happened. When Johnson started doing barbell row exercise, his technique was wrong. He was in a position that could damage his back. Hayes stopped. For the first time, he directly focused on what Johnson was doing. He watched for a few seconds, then set his mop aside. He slowly came to Johnson's side. Without saying anything, he put his hand on Johnson's back and corrected his position. With gentle pressure, he showed the correct form. Johnson was surprised. Hayes never spoke, but showed perfect form with body language. Then he stepped back and continued cleaning. "Thank you," Johnson said. Hayes just nodded, but for that 1 second, they made eye contact. There was depth in Hayes's eyes. Experience, knowledge, wisdom. Johnson was sure at that moment. This man wasn't an ordinary janitor. Johnson now began following Hayes even more closely, but he also tried to be careful. He didn't want Hayes to notice. A week later, returning from an early morning run, Johnson saw Hayes outside the building. He was seeing him in civilian clothes for the first time. Hayes's car was an old Ford pickup, clean, well-maintained, but unpretentious. There was a small sticker on the rear window, "Support our troops." Johnson noted the license plate as Hayes started the car. Then he researched it on the internet, but he couldn't find much information. Vehicle registration was in Ohio, but no other details. One day, while Johnson was observing Hayes in the locker room, he watched how he moved, how he held the mop, shoulder movements, stepping pattern. Everything seemed familiar. In Bud S training, instructors taught them operator movement. how to move silently, efficiently, without drawing attention. Hayes moved exactly this way. Johnson came up with a plan. He decided to test Hayes. One Friday morning, while Hayes was organizing equipment nearby, Johnson deliberately did something. He dropped his combat knife. It made a metal sound. Hayes's reaction was instant. He immediately went to alert position, identified the sound source, assessed potential threat. Then, seeing that the knife was just a dropped object, he relaxed. But this reaction time and assessment ability couldn't exist in an ordinary civilian. It was the result of military training. As Johnson picked up his knife, he looked at Hayes. Hayes was watching him, but suspiciously, as if he understood that Johnson was deliberately testing him. From that day on, Hayes started treating Johnson differently, more cautious, more distant, as if he knew his identity was at risk. Johnson noticed this change. Hayes now knew he was being followed. Master Chief Peterson noticed Johnson's behavior change. During training, he seemed less focused, more distracted. "Johnson, come to my office," he said one day after training. Peterson was a 25-year SEAL veteran. Multiple deployments, classified operations, distinguished service record. Nothing escaped the man's eye. "I've been observing you, Johnson. You've been distracted lately. Is there a problem?" Johnson hesitated. How open could he be with Master Chief? "Master Chief, about Hayes, the cleaning guy. Doesn't he seem strange to you?" Peterson's expression changed. More serious, more alert. "What did you notice about Hayes? His movement style, situational awareness, reaction time. He's not like a normal civilian." Peterson made a long pause, as if making an internal decision. "Johnson, you're a sharp recruit. Good observation skills. But some questions shouldn't be asked." "Sir, Hayes has been here a long time. He's respected, trusted. His past isn't a matter of curiosity." Johnson understood. Peterson was also suspicious about Hayes, but wasn't officially investigating. 2 weeks later, an unexpected incident occurred. A security breach alarm went off at the SEAL training facility. It turned out to be a false alarm, but according to protocol, all personnel were evacuated. Johnson watched Hayes during evacuation. Other civilian employees looked panicked, confused, but not Hayes. Hayes immediately identified the emergency exit, chose the optimal route, moved calmly and organized, as if he had done countless emergency drills. Most impressive was Hayes helping other people. He guided the elderly secretary, supported the injured maintenance worker. He was showing leadership behavior. After evacuation, Hayes quickly returned to his normal routine, but Johnson had seen everything. That evening, Johnson found Master Chief Peterson. "Master Chief, did you see Hayes during today's evacuation?" Peterson nodded slowly. "I saw." "Sir, that man isn't a normal janitor." Peterson made a long silence. Then he made a decision. "Johnson, walk with me." Peterson took Johnson outside the building. He went to a secure area for private conversation. "Johnson, I'm going to tell you something. But this conversation never happened. Understand?" "Yes, Master Chief." Hayes, his real name is William Hayes, Vietnam veteran, SEAL Team Operations, classified missions, multiple tours, distinguished service. Johnson's heart rate accelerated. He had guessed correctly. "Sir, why is he here? Why is he working as a janitor?" Hayes retired in 1975. PTSD, survivor guilt, adjustment problems. He couldn't adapt to normal civilian life. 30 years ago, he applied for a job here. We did a background check, contacted references. Decision made. Hire him. "Sir, why is it kept secret?" Hayes wants this. Civilian identity. Quiet life. He doesn't want to remember his past. Johnson understood everything. Hayes wasn't hiding from shame. He was hiding from pain. "Master Chief, I saw his tattoo. The ST6 badge." Peterson was surprised. "ST6? You sure?" "Positive, sir." Peterson's expression changed completely. ST6 meant something completely different. Not just SEAL. Top tier, classified operations, national security level. Johnson, if Hayes is really ST6, that man is a living legend. The next morning, Johnson looked at Hayes with different eyes. Respect, admiration, awe. This man had probably done operations that wouldn't even be written in history books. Hayes continued his normal routine. Cleaning, silence, invisibility. But Johnson now knew the truth. During training, Johnson began paying more attention to Hayes's observations. Which recruits was Hayes watching? About whom was he taking mental notes? Johnson noticed that Hayes was actually analyzing the training process. He was evaluating recruits' performance, potential, weaknesses. One day, Johnson deliberately approached Hayes. Mr. Hayes, good morning? Hayes nodded, but looked surprised. Nobody formally addressed him. Sir, do you have any advice for improvement in training? Hayes made a long pause, as if he was having an internal battle. Should he respond or stay silent? Finally, Hayes spoke. For the first time, he was giving Johnson a direct answer. Breathing. Control your breathing under stress. Simple advice, but profound. Johnson understood. That conversation broke the ice. Hayes was still silent, still invisible, but occasionally began giving Johnson small guidance. Grip strength, important for combat. Situational awareness, always know your exits. Pain is temporary, quitting is permanent. Short sentences, but incredibly valuable. Johnson realized that Hayes was sharing wisdom distilled from decades of combat experience. Other recruits still ignored Hayes, but Johnson was privately receiving mentorship. Johnson's performance improved significantly. Physical tests, mental challenges, tactical exercises, better results in every area. Master Chief Peterson noticed the improvement. Johnson, good work lately. Something changed. Johnson smiled. Just better focus, Master Chief. Peterson understood. He knew the Hayes factor. As training graduation approached, Johnson gave Hayes a special thank you. Sir, thank you for your guidance. Hayes showed a slight smile for the first time. You earned it, recruit. Good luck. This story teaches us, real heroes aren't always visible. Sometimes the most powerful people serve in the most humble positions. Hayes worked invisibly for 30 years. He didn't seek recognition, didn't want glory, just quiet service, silent contribution. The most important lesson, never underestimate anyone. Janitor, waiter, security guard. Everyone can be a potential hero. Respect everyone, because you never know their history. The quiet person next to you might be a legendary warrior. There are people like Hayes around us. Hidden heroes, silent veterans, forgotten legends. It's our responsibility to respect them. Have you ever regretted underestimating someone? Have you received unexpected wisdom from a quiet person? Share in the comments. If this story touched you, subscribe to Stories of Honor. We'll continue telling the stories of hidden heroes. See you in our next story. Until then, show a little more respect to the ordinary people around you, because the person protecting you might be someone you never expected.